Hey everyone, I'm Jack Fossett, and today we are checking out the Stardust version 3 from Crazy Tube Circuits. So you'll notice we just went all out there. We just went totally gain down, really driving it hard, as opposed to the usual way which I do a review, which is to kind of tweak the knobs and give you a neutral starting point and kind of dance around it a little bit. We're going to approach this review different, and I'll tell you why, because this is truly an amp in the box style pedal. And so it does a number of things beautifully. Now, first of all, for those of you that don't know the Stardust, this is a Fender style amp in a box kind of pedal. This is Crazy Tube Circuits' take on what was just the Fender blackface kind of sound. Real classic Fender tone, all the things you look for in an amp in the box style pedal, right? Good dynamics, touch sensitivity, and everything. But this is a lot more than just that. This is something that can really center your entire rig, honestly. Now, the version 3, first of all, has a few updates from version 2. First of all, if you're familiar with version 2, one of the things you might notice is that the jacks and the power connector adapter, the thing where you plug in the power, has been moved to the top. Honestly, it wasn't something that I ever used to care about until I started actually putting together pedal boards where I was very limited for space, and then I realized how smart it is to have everything up there so that you can get pedals, kind of right up next to each other. So that's the obvious one. Now, the other obvious one is this little switch right here, which allows you to get 3 different amp voicings. At the top, you have Bassman, in the middle, you have Vibrolux, and then at the bottom, you have Deluxe. And I will say that this really, really delivers on these tones. In fact, one of the things about this pedal that is incredibly special is how much it can just, like I said, kind of center your rig. This gives you the character of these amps in a number of different ways. Now, today I'm playing into a Henry Amps SRT Plus, which is a great amp. It's a Vox voiced amp, and you'll hear the pedal really makes it sound very Fenderish. Now, what you've just heard, obviously, is on Bassman mode with the gain turned all the way up. What we're going to do here is we're going to do each mode with the gain maxed out like you're using it like an all-out kind of overdrive. Then we're also going to do it with the gain pulled way back to give you what this sounds like clean. If you just want to give your amp a clean voicing like either a Bassman Vibrolux or Deluxe. So for the overdriven, we're using the Gibson ES335. That's loaded with Lust for Tone 57 Lust Bucker pickups. And for the clean tones, I'm using a Stratocaster. It's a made in Japan 60s Strat loaded with Porter 60 Strat pickups. The thing that's a little bit different that I want to also show you here in a second is how much this sounds great for using as your amp. Okay, it's a pedal, right? So like, what are you talking about? I've been doing a lot of direct-in recording for a number of different reasons. But I do find it difficult to sometimes find a really true good amp responsiveness from programs. Frequently they tend to do gain really well, you know, like modeling programs. They tend to do gain really well, but they don't always tend to do cleans as well. I started using this one from Crazy Tube Circuits. This is the Killer V. Some of you probably saw this past winter. I did a review of this one. And I was reading about it and you know, read that, hey, you know, you can actually plug it direct in, and if you just use it with a cab simulator, you can get some really cool tones. And I found that was really true. So I plugged this in, and I was getting some amazing tones using a cab sim. So then I thought, well, what about this one? Because as cool as this is based off of Magnetone. As cool as Magnetone is, I've always been primarily a Fender amp kind of person. So I plugged this in, used a cab sim with it, plugged it direct in, used the cab sim, and the tones I was getting are better than some of the mic'd up tones of actual Fender tube amps that I've played. So I want to give you two samples here. I'm going to give you Bassman on clean and then Deluxe on overdrive. And for that, I'm using a Gibson Les Paul Deluxe. So just listen to these direct in tones. I mean, that's really good. Now, I do want to say right now, this is a sponsored review, and any sponsored review, I get it, you kind of got to take anything that somebody says with a grain of salt. I'm using both of these on songs of my own that I'm recording because they sound so good. So that's about as much of an endorsement I can possibly give. It's like my songs, which I care very much about, I'm using these because they are giving me some of the best tones that I can possibly get recording. The cab sims that I'm using are from Line 6 Native, just FYI, and obviously there's a lot of people who experiment with IRs and things. But anyway, let's get back to some tone now for the, still probably the primary function for a lot of people for this is to use it as a pedal. So what we're going to do is now I'm going to give you the clean Bassman tone with a Stratocaster, and this is going into the amp. You just heard it direct in, but now we're going into the amp. Now we're going to do Vibrolux and Deluxe, both with the drive up and then using it as it's like a kind of clean character preamp, like giving you, changing the voicing of whatever your rig is. So let's get back into it. Let us know, what do you think? What do you think of something like that? Would you record with something like this? Would you use it as a backup rig or as a main rig, you know, with a cab simulator or an IR loader pedal set after it? Now, if you were to just go straight into a PA, it wouldn't quite give you what you wanted. You really need that second part to simulate a tube amp, you know, a real amplifier situation. But is this the type of thing that you would actually do? A lot of people are getting into this nowadays instead of lugging around big heavy rigs. Let us know in the comments. I'm Jack Fossett. Please remember to like, share, and subscribe. And I hope you enjoy the rest of the video.